What sort of work were you doing? Was it all for small businesses?
Yeah, and I think the way that came about, someone asked me the other day why that was like my favorite, I guess like target audience or like my favorite clients to work with. And what happened is when I was doing the stationery business and I was going to all these craft fairs, I was meeting all these really creative small businesses,
Yeah.
the makers, like, and I just kind of like fell in love with that group of people and what they were doing. There is maybe like independent businesses is a better way to put it. And I think that's where I realized that was who I wanted to work with. I would say I'm not a very corporate person. Like, I've worked in more corporate settings and it just doesn't really lend itself that well to A, my design style, and B, just who I am as a person.
No, I relate to
So
that. Yeah.
I just wasn't that interested. Like, the thought of working with like Nike wasn't that exciting to me. But obviously, corporate does have much bigger budgets. So I kind of like very intentionally built my business in a way that would support me working with clients that would have smaller budgets. So like, for example, I actually now do loads of work with Adobe, which is a huge corporate company. I mean, it's like less is quite a variety of different things I do for them. But what's really nice about that is I feel like that almost subsidizes the work. That it means that I can work with like clients with a smaller budget. So I feel like the way I've made it possible is by varying my income streams so they're not all just coming from branding clients. Because that is the group of people that I love to work with. And it did come from, being one of them and being at all those craft fairs with them. And that's not to say that I only work with makers and stuff, but I think that definitely informed, the sort of size of business and the type of business that I work with, for sure.
Yeah. And I think actually the two align in a sense because, small business owners and particularly creatives are doing all the things and they're doing it with Adobe Creative Cloud
Yeah,
as
often.
their
Yeah, or
tool.
like Adobe
So
Express.
actually,
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, Adobe
yeah.
Express. So actually, you know, the whole thing is about supporting smaller enterprises.
Mm.
And so the two make sense. And I've heard you speak about, your experience with Adobe and some of the big events that you've been to, and that actually there's a real like community vibe to it, that it is all about creativity. And the conversations do take into account the small businesses that they're serving. So I feel like it's not like a sellout situation where you're like getting Nike to pay all your bills and then you go and like donate your services at a discounted rate for small businesses. I feel like it
Yeah,
all
it
kind
does
of
fit.
fits with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. And like one of the ways that I've described it before is like my overarching umbrella is supporting small businesses. Whether that is I do their branding for them, or maybe it's like educational and like sharing a tool that's going to help them. And so that is why it did feel really aligned, the whole sort of Adobe Express ambassador kind of thing, because that was a tool that I can recommend to small businesses. And then it fits into my workflow really well because obviously I'm using the rest of Creative Cloud and they all integrate together. And so when I create branding, I can then hand the files off to my clients, with the tool that is accessible to them. So yeah, it definitely feels very aligned. And I think that is really nice, like that makes it a lot easier that it all still fits under that umbrella of what like my overall mission and goal is. So yeah. I'm glad you noticed
It,
that.
yeah, I do. It's not lost on me. No, I feel like now, as you speak about it, the story and the purpose of your business is really tight and really neat and really comprehensive. And I am going to go on a limb and say that when you were coming out of your second maternity, it wasn't quite like that. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
is something that's evolved.
Yeah.